Good evening, everybody. Rick DiClemente with Astrology Unplugged. We're up and recording now. Nice to have you with us, especially if you're coming over from YouTube. Tonight, I've been meaning to do for a long time. And what that means is talk about spiritual paths in such a way that we talk about the kind of common denominator that we all have. The recording is going good. In case you don't know, you're new to us. I'm coming out of the Pittsburgh area, and everybody else is coming out of all kinds of places. Tonight is going to be a lot of talk about a spiritual path, especially following a really good buddy of mine, whose name is Nick Arondes. Nick Arondes. Nick, you'll recall, was the host of this show on show number 100, and we're now on show number 326. Here's what that looked like a long time ago. Huh.
Our true nature. That's why I had a whole chapter on call it the false idols, just to show you basically how they both, how compare the way I was taught through metaphysics and spirituality contemporary, and then how the course approaches it. However, I do have to say that, and that's why I feel very moved to write the second book.
Okay, now, Nick is, I've stopped it now. Nick is a good friend of ours for the last several years. He comes to us as a student of the great Nook Sanchez, who happened to be our host on show number 200. And after I read Nick's books and Nook's books, I had them both on the show. Nick is originally from Puerto Rico. He's very strong in the Latin world, does a lot of touring in Mexico, a lot of touring in Spain, in the Canary Islands. He does a lot of videos. He's very prolific Virgo. He's done a lot of music, a lot of songwriting. He was even a stand-up comic. And Nick wrote the book. Honestly, if I had to choose one book, I'm going on an island and I can only take one book with me, this is one I'd take. It's What Happens When You Let Go, or What Happens When You Let God, written by Nick Arondes, available now on Amazon. I think it's only $5.95. Nick is got brilliant control of English and Spanish. He's doing things now that are even upper level. After he came out with What Happens When You Let God, he came out with this book called What Happened After Letting Go. What Happened After Letting Go. And he took quite a leap between those two books. And that book's a little harder to understand. It's a little deeper level. But anyhow, the reason for tonight is we all talk about a spiritual path. And in my mind, there's three kinds of spiritual paths. There's the one that you're taught that you're on, which is called religion when you're growing up, which really doesn't have much to do at all with a spiritual path. Then there's the spiritual path that you think you're on when you're going to the bookstore and you come home with a nice new piece of quartz crystal and some more fresh incense. Okay, that's not the spiritual path either. Spiritual path I'm talking about is where you're going with it. It's happening inside of you. I'm not here to judge it or say one is better than the other. It just so happens that in my studies, everything keeps pointing towards the Course in Miracles or the Course type principles because they just seem to be very prevalent these days, especially the fact since the Course is saying to us, we are not the way. You do it your way, do it your own way. In case you don't know about the Course of Miracles, it came to us in mid-65. This is what the Course is. It was transcribed to a woman named Helen Schuckman in 3 parts. There's a great big text. It took her about 7 years to transcribe it. Then there's a great big section, 365 days of the year. There's 1 lesson per day in the workbook section per day of the year. Then there's a small section at the end, which is a manual for teachers. A lot of other books have sprung out of this basic theory. It's a little bit repetitive, but you'll find they claim that it is channeled to us from Jesus. So there is a Christian bent to it, but it's really not at all like what you're used to hearing with Christianity. So don't let that scare you. Finally, Nook has been writing from the direction of Jesus. She's been writing a final triad, a trilogy. She's just finished the 2nd book, major work, just fabulous, called A Manual for Holy Relationships. This is her 2nd book. It's really her 3rd, but it's the 2nd in this triad. She's working on the 3rd and final piece now. This book is just absolutely brilliant, telling us what relationships really are and what they really aren't. And she's a Scorpio with the sun at 0 degrees and Neptune at 0 degrees. So she doesn't fool around when she tells you what it is and what it isn't. Now, she's not any better than anybody else. She has a beautiful way of expressing herself. If you befriend her on Facebook, you'll see that she's putting out wonderful topics just about every day. There are all kind of other groups that Teresa and I and some others here have followed, groups of different combinations of Course in Miracles students throughout the world, and they study together on different topics at different levels, usually almost always through the use of Zoom. So what I did tonight is I've been wanting to explain the simplicity of this spiritual path. And I know that there's another part of it that's extremely complex. I'm not going there. It's too hard. It's hard to talk about. It's hard to attain. I'm going to keep it simple tonight and do my best. Now, I have found in my research tonight, I went through, where's all my books here? I went through this one, his main one. What happens when you let God? What happens when you let go? I went through that book and I copied all my highlights that I had been highlighting the last several years, and that's what tonight is. It's 5 pages of those highlights from that book. Unbelievable. And I realized, and also, we got a real healthy kind of thing going on here at home with me and Liza, because Liza is more of a what do you call yourself?
What are you talking about?
Buddhist. She's more of a Buddhist or a Zen type person, but she's read the Course and she understands the Course, and she disagrees a little bit with me on certain parts of the Course, and we agree on certain other types. So it's no big deal. But what the interesting thing about tonight is, when you listen to tonight, I want you to listen closely, and I'm going to take my time because we're also looking deeply at what Ram Dass had to say to us, what David Hawkins had to say to us in his famous 9 books, the psychiatrist who recently passed away. Michael Singer, still alive, down in Florida, doing a lot of wonderful spiritual work, doing books like what is it? The
The Untethered Soul.
Go ahead, speak up.
The Untethered Soul.
The Untethered Soul, and also
The Surrender Experiment.
yes, thank you. So you're young, so you can remember the Surrender Experiment. Marvelous, marvelous books that are talking right down the same line that I'll be talking about tonight. Also, a little bit older, but just as great, the works of Paramahansa Yogananda out of India, wonderful stuff, and a lot of the work by Eckhart Tolle. So all five of them are really talking along a similar vein. And that vein has to do with letting go, letting things be, letting spirit take over. Okay? I am going to purposely lean away from the Course in Miracles. Now, maybe Nook is listening and she'll slap my hand. I don't know, because Nook's been trying real hard to educate me. My difficulty is, and Teresa and I both have taken the 1-year course with them called the TTC, or the, yeah, well, I'm losing it. Take me to the truth, right? Principles. My point is, the course is very complex, and whether they like it or not, the course spends a lot of time talking about you're not your body. On and on and on about you're not your body. After a while, I got tired of it. I got tired of hearing that I'm not my body, because I keep looking down and seeing one. And I don't want to fight. I've had the Catholicism to grow up with. I've had that Catholic guilt to deal with. I don't need the TTC kind of guilt to grow up with too. So I'm still working with the course, and Nook has her chuckles because she knows I'm gonna come back to it full steam anyway, that there's no way around it. But I'm working on the course with myself now without obsessing about, I'm not my body. Okay? I understand it. I understand why people do that, but I had my fill up to here and beyond. So when I took out about 5 pages worth of notes from Nick Aronde's book, once again, called What Happens When You Let Go, this book, remember, Nick was a musician. He put out CDs. He was from the islands. He was working a lot in Spain, working a lot in the Canary Islands. Very talented. Also a stand-up comic. Nick came upon some hard times in the beginning of his book, and he ended up being in a restaurant one afternoon with no money. I think he had 5 cents. No place to stay. He had a cup of coffee, no car, no job. And he just got, being a Virgo that he is, with Uranus and Pluto right at the nadir. He's a Virgo with Uranus and Pluto splitting the nadir with a T-square up to Chiron. Masterful chart. Masterful, powerful chart. Nick gave up. And if you know anything about Virgos, Virgos are here to tell us how to do something. Whether you want them to or not, that's what they're here to do. They're here to fix everything. And if you're not fixing it right, they're going to help you learn how to fix it right. That's just what they do. And it was so amazing to follow Nick now, because Nick's theory now is there's nothing you have to do. There's nothing you have to do. Don't have to do anything. Let the Holy Spirit do all the work. So you get the discrepancy here, apparent discrepancy of you don't have to do anything, but yet Nick's busy working all the time. Got a couple more new books out now. on Amazon. Anyhow, Nick is wonderfully brilliant. He talks a lot about how all this is a dream. Just like the other five, Ram Dass talked about it being a game. Hawkins talks about it being a dream. Michael Singer, same way, etc., etc. Same with Eckhart Tolle. They use different terms. But anyhow, not that they're irreverent. They all take it seriously. They all take it reverentially. Okay. So we'll get started. I'm going to go through point by point that I happened to highlight when I was writing the book. And we can stop and we can discuss if we need be. If not, we're going to keep on going. Because what I want to show eventually is I want to help all of us see clearly what our path is. And our path is not just being nice to the teller at the drugstore. That's not the path. That's part of it. That's part of it. There's no doubt. In the general kindness that you saw Liza talking about in her program last week. That's all part of it too. But I'm talking about at the end of this course is where you are one with God. I'm not claiming to be one with God. I'm not claiming to be anything. I'm just going to give you the information that I've received through the years, and hopefully it can help you in some fashion. And if you are confused, please ask questions. And I like to think that at least I can give you the basic principles that are coming out of these 5 or 6 different modalities. Okay? Well, what I don't want is a Gurdjieff. Gurdjieff was the famous Capricorn in Europe who ran his spiritual group like an SS group, and he was pretty stiff. We started with him in the '60s. He was tough stuff. Okay, just some phrases that I'm picking up from the book. So what Nick did. Nick was led, he finally learned that what mattered was choosing peace first. And I got so enamored with that when I read the book that I wanted to have a sign in front of my nose so I'd always remember to choose peace first. Of course, you can't do that. So I went to a tattoo artist and I wanted them to put HS right here on my finger for Holy Spirit. And I wanted to put LG over here for let go. I just wanted 2 commands on my finger so I'd see them. Let go, Holy Spirit. I just wanted to be reminded. And he discouraged me, telling me that finger tattoos are very painful. So he talked me out of it, and I flipped the page, and the second page of his book of tattoos was a diagram by King Crimson. And this is a diagram on one of the King Crimson albums that is a Celtic knot. And the King Crimson album is called Discipline. And it's all about reminding yourself to stay spiritually disciplined. So now instead of having it here, I got it here. So that's what you've been seeing all these years going around. Okay. So what Nick has come up with through his books, and I like how he does things, because remember, Virgos can't stop from teaching you how to do it. That's what they do. Libras teach you how to think about it. Virgos teach you how to do it. Without being too bossy, they try to be. Without being too critical, they try to be, etc. So he has basically boiled his book down to letting go and letting God. Now in his new book you read, he talks about letting life live itself. Let life live itself through you. That Now, I'm not going to argue any point with you. I'm just going to tell you what I've found. You can augment it, argue, throw it away, keep it, whatever you want. His books are about letting life just emanate through you. If you let go, you will be led, because leading is what's going on. So I'm going to try to talk each principle, give a little bit of air to breathe in between each one. Let you think about it, make notes if you wish. You always have the videotape to go back to. But that's his basic theory throughout the book. Letting go. Do not try to figure out. Do not try to fix. The opposite of what a Virgo is. Don't try, above all, don't try to control anything, because you can't. It is impossible. Now, we can get all kind of arguments about this, but I'm going to give you what I got, and we'll work through it and see by repeating these if we can get to more closure on these. He says, I was taught that if I needed to do something, they'd go fix it. That's what Virgos are good at. And at one level of reality, that's what Virgos do. They can't stop it, and they're excellent at it. They're the best at it. That's why they're almost all of them are working as nurses. Finally, following one disappointment after another, remember, he's putting out CDs, he's performing live, he's on stage in Las Vegas, he's a comedian, he's going around the world, he's working his ass off. After one disappointment after another, I finally gave up. And that was when I was ready. I'm quoting Nick most of these comments. There is no possible intellectual answer that can lead me to freedom. There is no idea that you can come up with that you figured out, that you follow that idea and it's going to lead you to freedom. And it's not possible. And the reason why is there's only one world. There's not two, there's one. And when you have ideas, everything becomes this idea and not that idea. You're becoming a world of duality. This is here, that is here. And when you figure out this is here, well, let's put that over there. This is over here, that's over there. You've automatically got duality once again. And he's basing his book on one simple phrase: only God is real. This is not easy stuff. Only God is real. Only God is real. Now, I don't want to butcher you and argue with you about our phrase God. You guys use whatever phrase you want. Spirit, the stars, Jesus. I don't want to argue about it. You know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a central, unifying spiritual force. So since only God is real, how can you figure out anything? First of all, there's no you. How can there be a you? Because if there's a you, then there's a me. And if there's a you and there's a me, there's two of us. Actually, there's 8 billion of us on the planet. Now we got a real problem. We're really divided. Instead of, they say, it's all based on we are one mind. We're one. Remember, all these things are true at the same time. So you guys keep juggling while I keep reading. We need a power which is greater than ourselves to help us get through. This is one of the reasons that we can't figure things out, because we're not big enough. We're not powerful enough. We are not enough. We need the great I amness. Only the great I amness You all know what that is. Only the great I amness understands all of this, because it's only the only mind that's big enough is the one mind. Rick, we having fun? I thought we were. I'm gonna keep on trucking. The question is, how long do we want to continue to suffer until we make the decision to let go and let God? I love the look on John's face. How long do we want to continue? John ain't doing it, but inside John's going. How long do we want to let ourselves continue to suffer before we let go? I remember Ram Dass's book a long time ago. He talked about going down the street. Well, how long do you want to go down the street rubbing your head against the curb? How many miles do you want to go down the street rubbing your head against the curb before you go, ow, and move towards the center line? He's talking about the same thing. So we humans don't realize that when we're struggling to have our way, we don't realize that the resistance that we're putting up from the natural currents of God's already there leading us. That's what he says. When you get tired of suffering, give it up and let go and let God. So the title is written a little funny. It's written like let go, let go. It's also let God. It's written two different ways. You have to be willing to let go of what you think you know. Boy, is that a big one. Let go of what you think you know. Because in order to make a decision about anything, you have to know everything. And that's not possible. And only someone that knows everything, i.e., one mind, can make an accurate decision because it has all the facts. Anything else doesn't. That's what he's talking about. Very intriguing. When you realize that you know nothing, only then will you have access to what you do know. I'll play this for you sometime. I got real upset about this once and I couldn't figure it out. And I was putting my tail between my legs and running downtown, running in circles. And I wrote to Nick about how come I gotta say I don't know anything when I do know that I know some things. So he wrote to me a nice answer about the stuff that you do know that's really meaningless versus the stuff that you think you know, but you don't know. And he sent me a nice little videotape, about 20-minute response, which I will play for you at the right time, which was really well put. Here we go. This come number one. Who you are is not physical. Our problem, in my perception, is not that we don't know who we are. We have no idea what we are. We see this little animal part of us moving around, eating and hearing and listening and see. We don't know what we are. We don't know where it came from. We got ourselves conned into thinking we're just this. And boy, I better spend more money on my beauty ointments and my haircuts and all that. So therefore, when we don't know who we are, we fall prey to being the ego, which is our concept of ourselves. And the ego is nothing more than a belief in our separation. I've been waiting a long time to do this evening, John. And I think you can see why, because it's got its mouth, my mouth is full of marbles. The ego is nothing more than you believing that you're here, someone else over there. And they're over here, and they're over here. And now you could teach me to be nice to them, teach them to be nice to me. But really, there's only one of us anyway. And everything you do to them, you're really doing to yourself. Because there's only one mind. It's not an easy concept. All right. You do not need to create or attract. You do not need to create or attract or change anything in the world in order for you to experience any of the qualities of God, because in essence, you're already Him. You don't have to go get God. You don't need to mirror yourself after. You don't have to behave as if you think He did or He would, because you already are one. You're already there. And the whole theory about heaven, he said, what's the struggle? You're already there. You don't have to get there. You're already there. Here we are. And if we would just accept it, our lives would be more heavenly. So that's why he writes throughout the book about the end of struggle, the end of resistance. Resistance is what equals hell. Resistance is what gives us hell. Because you've automatically got duality. Duality equals hell. Separateness. We making any sense yet? A little bit. I got your blood flowing in your veins a little bit. Okay. We only have one problem. This is interesting. We forgot that God and I are already one. This is big stuff. This is really big stuff. We only have one problem. We forgot that God and I are only one. And if you read Ram Dass, and you read David Hawkins, and you read Michael Singer, and you read Tolle, they're all saying the same thing. They're all saying the same thing. If you are not ready to do your work, the support that you need will not be recognized within the field of your conscious awareness. This is fabulous. Listen to that again. If you are not ready to do your work, you're simply not ready. The support that you need will not be recognized. You'll dance right by it within the field of your conscious awareness. That's why when you are ready, it just looks like magic. Oh, it's all there when I need it. It's always there. The miracle's always there. Just you don't necessarily ready to see it. Some days you're ready, some days you're not. Beautiful how simple it is. Page 2. I realized that the part of me that wanted to help others is my ego disguised as a savior. How can I help someone else when they're already God and when there's only one of us? In other words, he's saying throughout his book, there's only you helping you. There's only you teaching you. Think about that. That's a very Course in Miracles type of thought. Simply put, you do not ask God for what you want. You simply make yourself available so that God can use you. This will make you double think what we call prayer. Think of what people say when they pray. Oh, I hope my team wins. Hope my team kicks that field goal. You do not ask God for what you want. You simply make yourself available so that God can use you. Well, this one's all caps. Must be real important. As some say, co-creating really is, God, please let me do this on my own. I get this from so many people that people say, oh, I want to do the thing with God, but I also want to do my thing. I want to do my thing with God, but I also want to do my thing too. I want to co-create. I want to co-create. I want to co-create. It's not what's happening. You want with God too. Duality. Doesn't work. When you let go of what you think you want, what you really want will reveal itself to you. That one's obvious. He used to go to all these spiritual seminars and talk and listen. And I was really seeing that what I was doing was trying to find out what I could get from somebody else. That's what I was doing there. I was saying, what can I get from him? What can I get from her? Energy stealing, energy stealing. We know that doesn't work. God is my only source and supply. You can use whatever term you want. Yahweh, whatever. He's my only source and supply. By trying to perceive differently, all we are doing is trying to rearrange hell in order for it to look like heaven, which is impossible to do because we're already there. We don't need to rearrange heaven because we're already there. Well, look at somebody, tell them that, boy, you'll get a look. Hey, brother, we're already in heaven. You get the look, boy. Some people you give the look and they understand it. And some people see that it's true because it is true. This is one of my best favorite phrases in the whole book. I think one of the most important too. Nothing of itself has any meaning. Nothing in and of itself has any meaning. All meaning we apply to things. We give it meaning. We agree to it. Elsewise, it doesn't have any meaning. It's all meaningless in the Buddhist sense. Well, this is a good one. When you let go of all of your agendas and stop trying to force things to happen, that's when inspiration happens. When you let go of all of your agendas and stop trying to force things to happen, that's when inspiration happens. And you all know when inspiration happens, it's just a breeze to write that song, to go do that dance, to go do that exercise, to go chop that wood, to go take that walk, to whistle a tune, whatever. So the problem comes back when we think that we want an agenda, when we think we should figure out an agenda, and when we try to implement one. Well, you can't implement an agenda because automatically there's you and there's the agenda. Separateness. Again. Here is the key. When I am in a place of trust and surrender, I am presented with the right opportunity that will lead to where I'm supposed to be. That's really well put. Here's the key. When I am in a place of trust and surrender, I am presented with the right opportunity that will lead to where I'm supposed to be. How? By being in trustful state and surrendering. He keeps repeating throughout this book. What matters is that we're present, living in the present, in a happy state. Trusting yourself seems discomforting and fearful at times, but if you are willing to trust, soon you will realize that the whole world has been waiting for you to help wake them up, and that it's because when I wake up, there's only one of us here. We make it so hard, don't we? We make it so hard. The only thing that there is to do is to be peaceful. As you continue to withdraw your attachments from anything that this world seems to offer. We're going Central Buddhist philosophy here.
Can you read that one again?
Yes, ma'am. The only thing there is to be is peaceful. As you continue to withdraw your attachments from anything that this world seems to offer. Because who you really are is already perfect and complete, and it needs nothing, and you're lacking nothing. Where does that leave you? Out there trying to grab something that you don't want, that you don't need, that you've already got. Told you it wasn't easy. That was page 2. So how do you flow with life? How do you flow with life? You do, I love this answer. You do so by resisting nothing and practicing non-attachment. That sounds to me like what our lawyer John's been doing lately, by not resisting. Let's stop there after page 2. Any comments so far? Any ringy dingies? Ringing any bells?
Of course, all of it. You could eat it with a spoon. It's true, all of it.
Well, we got Sigmund with his hand covered over his stomach, so I would imagine that means it's content. I love this one. How's this? You have no control over anything. Ooh, me, the big ego? I can't control anything? Huh? I could turn the switch off. Boy, is this a humbling experience. And the reason that you don't take anything seriously is because none of it is real. We're at the heart of the course now. The reason you don't take anything seriously is because none of it is real. It's what Christ told us in his own way. None of it is real. You can see where students can get really confused. When you let go and let God, uncertainty has no power over you because deep within you, you know that you are being taken care of and everything is unfolding perfectly. Fabulous. Everything's already unfolding perfectly. So what's the problem? It's already unfolding perfectly. I want you to unfold a little faster. Could you do that? We just don't get it, do we? How could there be so many of us taught so incorrectly? It's just mind-boggling. Maybe that's what Earth is. I don't know. Sure is what it seems like. This is wonderful. The need is not to grow, but to remember. That's a really good one. We don't need to grow and attain all these things. What we need to do is remember. Pretty cool. This group is just stunned. I'm not stunned because I have to keep reading. Man, the true self is not something that we need to search for. It's just blocked by layers and layers of ego. The layers and layers of ego are on top of it like an onion. Peel away the layers, you've got the true self sitting there. We all know that about meditation, song, chanting, prayer. It's all there once we unstrip. So it appears that we go to a lot of these seminars just to get away from all the noise and the crazies that are so busy keeping the old world going. And we get there and then we're reminded, oh yeah, it's time to unstrip. And it's worth the money of the seminar. I don't need to do anything. A little tiny statement. The only thing that the ego knows, the only thing it knows is how to separate. Well, you're bigger than me and you're richer than me. And I'm faster than you. And my house is bigger than you. And all this comparison. All we're doing is separating. It's a wonder there aren't more wars. Everything is being perfectly orchestrated. And this is what he said to me recently, which I really like. Let life live itself. That's a really good one. Let life live itself. You don't have to do anything to it. You don't have to get yourself in position. Just let it be. We must first learn to let go of every single judgment that we have about anything. All judgment has to go. Here's the problem. Christianity and Catholicism teaches us the judgment has to go because that's what a good person does. We don't judge. He's teaching you here to let go of judgment because you're always wrong. It just doesn't work. You're judging it doesn't work. Not because you're bad if you judge. Look at the difference. Look at all the guilt and ulcers that it brings to the Catholics. Grr. Wish I had that when I was 5, 6 years old. Here's a good one for you. How long does it take to undo this false self? Well, as long as you want to continue to suffer. Oh boy. We're on page 3. The kingdom of heaven is within you. There is nothing that you have to do to force on your way to God. You only have to be open to experiencing God, and understanding will follow. There are no lifetimes or reincarnations because the body is not real. And all we are experiencing are various dreams. Did you ever get that feeling? It's just one dream versus another. And this kind of dream and that dream, this long one, this short one, this colorful one, this one not. And that they're all just varied dreams. And you wonder where in the hell you are. I guess you could call it the Matrix. There are no lifetimes or reincarnations because the body is not real. That's a big one. Once the guilt has been removed from our mind, there's no reason to have any further physical experiences. Guilt is at the heart of the Course in Miracles. The Course believes that guilt is what keeps us separate, because we keep thinking that God's going to figure out that we left, and God's going to be mad once he comes down, and he's going to kick our butt. And if we feel guilty, he won't punish us so bad, because we've already been suffering. So we hang on to our guilt. This is the centerpiece of A Course in Miracles, is guilt and forgiveness. God of others, forgiveness of the self. That's the centerpiece. Read tons of books. You'll read a book thousands of times. That word is right there in the middle. And the only thing that we need for healing is lack of fear. Page 4. Paul Harvey, good day. You want to heal? Get rid of fear. How do you get rid of fear? Let it go. So, try it next time you're suffering. Identify the fear. Let it go. See what happens. All right. So while the ego was screaming at me to go make money, my spirit would say, be still. And in the midst of my experience, an overwhelming feeling of peace would take over. And from that space, I receive guidance as to what my next step should be. So while the ego is screaming at me to go make money, be a good earth sign, my spirit would say, be still. And in the midst of my experience, an overwhelming feeling of peace would overtake me. And from that space, I receive guidance for what my next step should be. If you got room for this tattoo, this is a good one. First and foremost, I'm asking for peace. Maybe across your forehead. Teresa, baby finger. Not a Libra, no. It's gonna be in the right place. Put it on back of the arm. First and foremost, I'm asking for peace. When you're at peace, what do you have? You got everything. You got no separation. You got no struggles. What do they say? I will be content with everything once I'm content with everything. The Holy Spirit asks for only one thing: your willingness to practice listening at all times. That's a really good one. The Holy Spirit asks you for only one thing: your willingness to practice listening at all times. In case you haven't discerned it from this yet. When you ask Nook or one of the great ones, how can you tell? A common question they get is, how can I tell when the ego's talking? How can I tell when the Holy Spirit's talking? First of all, the ego's always loud. It's arguing, convincing, loud. Holy Spirit is always quiet. It's always sure of itself, restful, loving, quiet. I think that's a pretty good answer. This one we should talk about earlier on. Remember that the goal of all this is not to feel good, but to awaken from this dream by remembering that it's all an illusion. I guess you can feel good while you're doing it. Now, this is heavy duty. Put your belly straps on for this one. You are perceiving nothing and interpreting it as something. Everything you perceive is a bunch of nothing that you're perceiving and translating it as something. That falls in line with a lot of these books, I think. Who's got time for a bumper sticker? Love comes from God and there's nothing to figure out. Well, this might be my favorite. When you hold a grievance against another person, you're really condemning what you did to them. What is that truth do? When you hold a grievance against another, what you are really condemning is what you did to them to begin with. Look around, that's really a true one. Page and a half left, so bear with me. Only one thing exists, and that is God, and everything else is illusion. And that's why it is said that God is everything. Well, here's a chin rubber. Everything you see is you in different shapes and forms. Everything that you see is a reflection of you in a different shape and different form. Oh, I like that. Oh, I don't like that. Well, look at that big one. Look at that little one. There's a yellow one. There's a fast one. We just keep projecting our own self. So go forward without any guilt. Have fun with it. And if for some reason that which you went after did not happen, trust that it was not meant to be and continue without any judgment or resentment. Because one thing is for certain, if it is of this world, it is not important. As I read these different ones, I hear different authors. I hear Ram Dass sometimes. I hear Eckhart Tolle. They all have their different stories. Because one thing is for certain, if it's of this world, it is not important. That makes sense to me. Remember that with the ego, it is impossible to win. It's always a losing situation, no matter what. When the ego is involved, you will always lose because the ego is out to destroy you. Its only function is to destroy you and keep you separate. Then it remains existing. What is yours will come to you when you are ready. The French mathematician Pascal once said, all sorrow has its roots in man's inability to sit quietly in a room by himself. All sorrow has its roots in man's inability to sit still in a room by themselves. Getting near the end now. God's will and your will are the same. The way I feel about my brother is the way I feel about myself. Here comes our literature teacher. About 6 more. If you already have everything, therefore needing nothing, what are you praying for? Ask for the remembrance of who you are. It says that's the only reason to pray. The only reason to pray is not to get something, because you already got it. Ask for the remembrance, the constant remembrance of what you are, what and who you are. That's a good one. Welcome, Linda. You missed the first 45, but you'll get the last 4, so it's okay. The only prayer is not that my basketball team wins. The only prayer is to reach for another way of looking at things. This is how I feel. Please rework it. Let me know how you would shift how I should see things. Give me another way of looking at things. I want that, boy, this is something. I want the peace of God. Oh my God, this is big. I want the peace of God. And to say those words means nothing, but to mean them means everything. I want the peace of God. It seems so simple. So our job is not just remembering, but to remind each other. I want the peace of God. When you want the peace of God, it's the only thing you will have. You are always teaching, including me, and you're always teaching yourself about yourself. Oh, we must all be so fascinating. 3 left. Only God is real. Remember one thing, in that there is only one of us here. It won't take us a while. There's just one of us here. The final statement. All you are doing is removing the blocks of awarenesses, of the blocks of awareness of love's presence. All you are doing is removing the blocks to awareness of love's presence. Evolving means change, and you are already whole, perfect, and complete. So there. Okay. If you're not in a stupor, raise your hand. If you are in a stupor, keep your hand down. Well, thank you for your patience. Sean has raised his hand. Yes, Sean. Unmute yourself. Mr.
Never mind that, boss man. I hit the wrong thing. It's okay.
Boss Man.
What was the question?
There was no question.
Okay. All right.
It was saying that you are all right the way you are. Okay, anybody else? Comments on certain ones? Agreements? Further discussion? I think those comments tonight are very much in sync with what we've been talking about all along. Just with different terms. Linda, what do you think? We always pick on you because you're the one that always gets to us late.
Well, because this is my last night of my night class. So the rest of the summer, I should be on time. And they were just so brilliant. When you let young people, when you give them something to start with, and then you tell them to go out and do something and come back and show you, then they come back and show you greatness. It's amazing how really good they are. I'm going to put, when we're done, I'm going to post something and seriously, the sky outside looks like unbelievable. It's not supposed to be, the radar isn't showing anything, but it looks to me like a mothership is. But what resonated for me, because I came in late, was when you were talking about about asking God to change how you think about things or to change your mind about something. And it reminded me of a book I read years and years and years ago, Marianne Williamson's sort of translation of the Course in Miracles, where she says, the one thing that stuck with me from that book was a miracle is a change of mind. That's what a miracle is a change of mind. And in my experience, that is in fact the case. I think that's an amazing thing, is to understand that your fixed ideas are something that you can ask to re-see them, and then it changes everything. So that's what I thought.
I agree with that. That's good. Shelby.
Oh, yeah, Shelby back there. She gets mad. Is that Shelby? Is that the black one? Shelby may be in the basement because it's so bad, because she came flying in from the porch. So that's Henrietta. She may be standing.
That's Henrietta. John, what do you think, John?
I have nothing to add.
That's what I thought you'd say. Rick, you do all the work. I'm going to send you an invoice. Come on, Claudia. Claudia always has something to say.
Well, the one that he's just wonderful. But, I had a big change in my life lately. I got laid off, and I've been really sitting in meditation and prayer. And when I pray, I find myself doing the prayer thing, like, oh, please bring me a job. And then I remember myself. And so I was really resonating with the one that says, ask for remembrance of who you are. Because it's really not just about losing a job. It's a lot more than that. But for me to let go of the things in my head, in my mind, that I think need to happen or should happen the way they happen, and they may look like nothing. And so I kind of, like what Linda was saying, I want the willingness to see something different for myself and my life and my direction. So Jennifer Evanko, she does a meditation, and she often starts with, who am I? And that's the same as, asking for the remembrance of who you are, because we already really know, but we forgot. That's why I love kids fresh out of the other world, they don't know any different. They just are themselves. They don't know any different of how to be and how to act. And then we put all this crap on them. So that one was really great. And let life live itself through you. Oh, that's so beautiful.
I strongly recommend you all get the first book. You won't be disappointed. He has others, but the one, what happens when you let go and let God,
Yeah.
which is marvelous. You may want to skip his jokes because he decided to insert his jokes, and I wish I had. I guess you had to be there when he told him. But no, seriously, he's just awesome, and
Yeah,
he's just
it's evident.
so powerfully insightful.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Claudia. Come on, Amy, gotta wake up. Give me your 2 cents. 2 cents from out west.
The Midwest always has more than 2 cents to say, but I will keep it limited today. That Leo rising in me just likes to talk. I agree with Claudia on the life live itself. You know, as you get older and older and older, and pretty soon you go like, where was my 30s? Where went my 40s? Like, well, like, oh my gosh, I'm already this old, and what have I accomplished, kind of thing. And it's not even so much that at this point. Like, again, I too, I'm not in the same situation as Claudia, but I am looking for a new career and to find out not who I am, but where my place in the world is, where I can really give to other people. And so that life live itself is really just saying to me, and like I said in the chat, it is the ultimate form of surrender. Like, you will be placed, everything is unfolding as it should, and even though you innately know that, there's little bits of human, parts that just like, oh, I really would like it to be on my time frame, but it never is. And so I've just kind of, come to this, okay, yes, this is what I'm looking for, I'll put it out there, universe, I'll show you that I'm doing the steps to kind of work toward it, kind of live in the spiritual world and the 3D world at the same time, but I'm also just handing it over to you because you know what's better for me than I know it's, good for
I
me.
wondered if you would mind. I got a message to look at your chart.
Okay.
You don't mind?
No.
Reason I said that is I did this a week ago. I don't know what it was about you, but something flashed that I needed to look at your chart. And we were not doing much astrology, but let me take a moment and get that up here, okay?
Okay.
Okay, back with Amy. Let's take a look at this chart. Amy's a Cancer. Stop this. Start that. What is wrong here? Here we go. I'm not sure what it was that popped out of my eyes last week. Let's take a look here. Okay, you've got 0 degrees Taurus. So while you've got Uranus going back and forth here at 0 degrees fixed, right? Cardinal fixed, it is squaring this midheaven nadir. And the midheaven nadir is work, home, work, home. What do I need in the world? What do I need at home? What do I need in the world? What do I need at home? And as Uranus is going back and forth in the 6th house, you're trying to get your job skills lined up to satisfy that. Well, how can you satisfy it when one's going, I need this at work, I need this at home, I need this at work, I need this at home. Okay, so what usually happens when you have a dichotomy like that is, especially a Cancer, because that's very much that Cancer Capricorn houses anyway. What's needed to happen is you need to see during the next 3 months or so, as it continues to go back and forth till late February, You need to start to see what you need in the world is really the same thing as what you need at home. They're really the same thing. They may appear different. You may also see that they may need to make an adjustment here to satisfy that one and vice versa. But does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay, so if that has been a big deal recently, that's why. And it's even been nutso with the Uranus going back and forth. That'll take you July, August, September, October, November, about 6 more months until you'll be ready to solve it and feel good about it. All right, let's take a look again. All right. Okay. So Neptune is sitting here. Neptune is going to go, it's going to go into your 9th house. You have an 8/14 birth time. Okay, this is pretty much a guarantee that you're going to go overseas. I've seen this many times. It's usually correct. It's usually by ocean liner. Okay, this to me looks like at least a year from now when Neptune goes into that 9th house. Don't be surprised if there is some business attachment to it, but also don't be surprised if there's some education attached to it. Learning a job skill set, learning at a foreign university. Don't be surprised. This could be marvelous. This surprise you? Okay, keep it in mind. Keep it in mind. I'll bet my bottom dollar. All right. Pluto is where? Pluto is here. Okay. Going back and forth. Oh, yeah, this is really something. Pluto's really big here. Okay. So as the Pluto continues, this is really big. You're trying to line up where have I been and where am I going? And they have not matched in the past, and I haven't worried about it. But for some reason now, they need to come to some kind of agreement. Where have I been? Where am I going? And it's real important now and through the next year that your family does not continue to see you as the old role. They need to start letting you go, seeing you as a new self. Okay? They're comfortable seeing you, the old you. They need to let go and start seeing you favorably as the new you. Is making sense? How so?
Well, I honestly, I mean, as far as in reference to family, besides my kids are always just going to see, they're pretty much, what do I want to say, old souls, and they're very accepting of however mom is or isn't. Like, I am just their mom. And so I don't think there's any expectation of any of them as to how I am or am not. In reference to my other family, that contact is pretty limited. So, I've always labeled myself as the black sheep kind of thing because I'm not the typical in the family, and still am not. So I guess I don't have a lot of that association with family that's even to the forefront, I guess, to your point.
Well, the point I'm getting to is, I've definitely getting into this conception lately that cancers really live their life in halves. A lot of people do. And I think the first half of a cancer's life really has a lot to do with the dependency upon the family. And I think the second half is they really get past that. They really get past it. They don't need it anymore. And it gives them a lot of freedom. And in getting that freedom, a lot of times people in the family don't like it because they're used to you being in that old role. And you need to work out smoothly with the old people to look, I'm still around. I still love you. It'll all be okay, but I'm moving forward. I just don't need you as much as I did at one time. Maybe use your own terms. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because you're a motherly figure. Cancers are motherly figures to any entity they belong to. And a lot of people get nervous when that cancer starts to budge. Because people are very content and happy when you stay where you are. It makes them feel safer. Okay? Okay, any other comments by anybody? Anybody got questions? Sigmund, Marcia, Teresa, anybody? Rick?
Yeah.
Marcia, go ahead. Rick, you'll be next.
Okay.
Marcia, go ahead.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I just found a quote. Life, like a dome of many-colored glass, stains the white radiance of eternity.
Wow. Isn't that amazing? It's
Reminds me of your book,
it's imprinted on us. Yeah, that's terrific.
and it's from this book.
How to Know God. Yoga Patanjali. Wow. I like that, bud. So what do we'll go to Rick here and finalize it there, but it seems like what we're learning tonight of all the messages is just there's a lot of hoo-ha right now about all kind of things the world could be, and there's a lot of instruction and reminder tonight for us to just relax. Just relax. Rick?
So I have a lot of people that have struggled with letting go. And I explained that the key to letting go is to know what you're releasing. And it's about control. So when you release control, you have found surrender. And I think releasing feels easier because it gives you something constructive to do. You know, open your hands and stop holding on. And then I just thought I'd share a quote that is a favorite of mine when thinking about the path of spirituality. We are all just walking each other home.
Yeah.
That's by Ram Dass.
I know it is, and I hope you're all there when I start walking home. Because this is a nice group to walk with, huh? Thank you very much, Rick, and everybody. And as we've seen after version 326 tonight, who knows what next week will be? Huh? We don't know. We'll see. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you, YouTubers. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next
Take care,
time.
all.
Shut the recording off first.
Right.